You ever notice how some of the biggest car companies, names we grew up with, like Ford, GM, Nissan, are suddenly feeling the heat? Like, not just from competition or market shifts, but from something way deeper, something that could actually threaten their survival. Yeah, it's kind of wild. There's this financial tool called the Altman Z-score that's been around since the late 60s, and it's basically a crystal ball for predicting if a company might go bankrupt in the next couple of years. And right now it's flashing some serious red lights for a bunch of those auto giants. So, what's this Altman Z-score? Imagine it as a health checkup for companies. But instead of checking your blood pressure or cholesterol, it looks at 5 key financial things, like how much cash they have on hand, how much debt they're carrying, how profitable they are, and how well they're using their assets to make sales. It crunches all those numbers into one score. If the score is above about 3, the company's doing fine. Think of it like a clean bill of health. Between 1.8 and 3, that's the gray area. Kind of like when your doctor says, we need to keep an eye on this. But if it drops below 1.8, that's a big warning sign, like a red flag saying bankruptcy could be on the horizon. Now here's the kicker. Some of the biggest names in the auto world are sitting in that danger zone. Take Nissan, for example. They posted a massive $4.7 billion loss recently, and their Z-score is way below that 1.8 cutoff. Analysts are saying there's a 100% chance they could go bankrupt within 2 years if things don't turn around. That's huge. Nissan's been struggling with falling sales, loads of debt, and expensive restructuring efforts like closing factories and cutting jobs. It's like watching a favorite band struggle to keep the tour going because the crowds just aren't showing up anymore. Ford's not looking great either. Their latest Z-score was just over 1, which is deep in the distress zone. They're bleeding money, especially in their electric vehicle division, which you'd think would be their future gold mine. But the transition to EVs isn't as smooth or as fast as everyone hoped. Meanwhile, their traditional car sales aren't enough to cover the losses. It's like trying to run a marathon with a sprained ankle. Painful and tough to keep pace. General Motors and Volkswagen aren't out of the woods either. GM's hovering just above 1, and VW somewhere between 1.2 and 1.5. Both are dealing with shrinking profits, big debts, and the slow pace of moving into electric vehicles. It's like they're stuck in traffic on the highway to the future, while newer players are zooming past. Speaking of new players, companies like Tesla and BYD are actually in a much better spot. Their Z-scores are healthier, and they're leading the charge in electric vehicles. So while the old guard is struggling to keep up, these newcomers are cruising ahead, capitalizing on the shift to cleaner, smarter cars. Now you might be wondering, why is this happening? Why are these giants who once ruled the roads suddenly at risk? Well, it's a mix of things. First, there's a ton of debt. These companies borrowed big to invest in new tech and factories, but the returns aren't coming fast enough. Then profits are shrinking because the market is changing faster than they can adapt. The EV revolution is here, but it's not a simple switch. You can't just flip a switch and suddenly make electric cars as cheaply and reliably as gas ones. Plus, the global economy isn't exactly a smooth ride right now, with inflation, supply chain issues, and changing consumer habits all adding pressure. So, what does this all mean for us, the everyday drivers and car buyers? Well, it could mean a shakeup in the industry. Some brands might disappear or get bought out. Prices could go up as companies try to cover their costs. And innovation might slow down if companies have to focus on survival instead of pushing new tech. But here's the thing. This isn't just doom and gloom. It's a natural part of how industries evolve. Remember when Blockbuster went under and Netflix took over? Or how the phone industry shifted from Nokia to Apple? The car industry is going through its own version of that. The companies that adapt, innovate, and manage their money well will survive and maybe even thrive. The ones that don't might not make it. And hey, if you're into this kind of deep dive into what's really going on behind the scenes, you might want to stick around. I'm always digging into stories like this, breaking down complex stuff, into something you can actually use and understand. So, if you haven't already, consider hitting that subscribe button It's like having a friend who's got your back when the news gets complicated. All right, back to the story. The Altman. This score isn't perfect. It's just one tool among many. But it stood the test of time because it gives a pretty reliable snapshot of financial health. And right now, that snapshot is telling us the auto industry is at a crossroads. For Nissan, Ford, GM, and VW, the next couple of years are critical. They need to figure out how to cut costs, pay down debt, and make their EVs more competitive. Otherwise, they might be looking at bankruptcy or forced mergers. That's not just bad news for those companies. It's bad news for workers, suppliers, and even customers who rely on those brands. On the flip side, companies like Tesla and Boot are showing how the future might look: leaner, electric, and tech-savvy. They're proving that if you're willing to innovate and manage your finances carefully, you can not only survive, but lead the pack. So next time you see a headline about an automaker's quarterly earnings or a new electric model launch, remember there's a bigger story playing out. It's about survival, transformation, and who's going to drive the future of cars. In the end, the Altman Z-score is like a financial heartbeat monitor for these companies. Right now, some of those heartbeats are weak, and the industry is holding its breath. But with smart moves and a bit of luck, the giants might just roar back to life. Thanks for sticking with me through this. If you found this interesting, helpful, or just want to keep up with stories like this, you know what to do. Subscribe and stay tuned. There's a lot more coming, and I promise to keep it clear, real, and worth your time. Catch you next time.